So this next video is about how identity affects your happiness within your role and how important it is to separate the two. So basically, I'm speaking about those who are passionate about a particular thing. So you could start off with a hobby, and here I'm kind of speaking to graphic designers specifically. Of course, this can be applied to different other passionate roles, but today I'm just speaking about graphic design. So those who are very fortunate enough, like myself and others, to transform ultimately what is a hobby, a passion project, into a career, full-time role, often have this issue where their identity is fully invested in that role, which can subsequently affect your happiness in how you perform and how you perceive yourself in your work. So, for example, looking back in my career, when I was kind of a new designer, I was very fortunate to get anywhere at all. If anybody who's watched my previous videos would know my struggles getting anywhere at all in the industry. It's a pretty tricky time was. So working in this kind of new role, I realised how lucky I was and was aware of my journey getting to that particular point. So everything was ultimately invested in this particular role because, yes, I was able to transfer between that point of hobby to career and was kind of afraid of losing everything. So when you blur that line between identity and your passions, it can leave you to work maybe in a more kind of negative space. So with the fear hanging over you that you may lose that particular role, you may be, for example, more open to accepting things in the workplace that wouldn't be acceptable in terms of the treatment or the way people communicate with you. Within that, you wouldn't dare question should you lose anything. Also, when it comes to feedback, so someone could say to you, hey, look, this particular project, this works in this area, this doesn't work very well, I don't like this so much. Can we have another go at this? Do you have any other ideas? So, in those kind of situations, looking back in my career, I tend to sort of respond to that in a very kind of negative way. Well, I feel like they're criticising me as a person. I feel like this is like a very kind of personal comment, and I really did take it to heart. And also, as well as that, the treatment that I was obviously had to, well, I say had to, I didn't really have to though, but I endured at the time. The treatment that I endured, of course, it made me stressed, it made me feel under pressure, and all these kind of different points. It just kind of affected my performance earlier on because that additional level of stress bellowing down on your mind, it makes you make more mistakes, it makes you more uncomfortable, it makes you more physically unwell in that, through that those experiences, and also mentally unwell as well. This was the kind of thing that I kind of dealt with years ago, where I just felt like I was in this cycle of, well, I've got this wonderful job, I'm really lucky to have this though, but why do I feel so bad all the time? Why do I feel so stressed all the time? And there's a few more instances where I kind of came across this in my career, and I realised, okay, well, this isn't just an isolated incident, it's something that happened over time, and I need to really address this. So my kind of discovery, the point where I began to realise actually that I'm putting all of my eggs in one basket, and this role, it isn't everything. It shouldn't be everything. I love doing this. I'm so lucky to do this, but I don't think my world is going to collapse, or I'm no longer going to be who I am. Should I lose that role? Should there be a major change to that role and I do something different, or whatever it might be? And the moment when I began to realise that, the easier life became, really, that the happier I became as a designer, because ultimately I realised, I was kind of working within the realms of this kind of paradox. Basically, well, okay, I've chosen my passion project, my passion career, and I've made that into my full-time role, and I chose that because I wanted to be happy. I didn't want to just be somebody working the day-to-day without any passion for what they do. I saw it as, a waste of my life. But ultimately, kind of getting to that point, I realised actually all the pressures that I was putting on myself in those situations, because I kind of blurred those lines, it was kind of making me unhappy. And this is just one of the most important things I feel I could say to any professional, really, is, keep that passion, make that passion, your life, let that guide you to create the best work that you can do. But also, know where to draw the line with where your identity ultimately, lies. Should you ever lose that role, you are still going to be you regardless. Your next job, you're still going to be you regardless. The job after that, you're still going to be you regardless. And when you begin to understand, okay, well, this is where my true identity lies, it will kind of stay you through many difficult situations through your career. And through that kind of revelatory view on your self-perception, it kind of it'll make your life a lot easier as a designer, because then you kind of release that pressure you put on yourself. Should things change in a way that you don't really want to change, of course, and that stress that constantly rises upon you to perform and do things in a certain way immediately releases. And again, the second paradox is putting less pressure on yourself and forcing yourself less. It increases your performance, it increases the quality and the quantity of your work. It increases, the quality of your mindset, the way you perceive yourself and deal with your day to day. But consequently, making those changes, and this is a change, of course, that I made, it kind of led to the way people perceive you in your role, in the way people perceive you in your particular role is affected by your body language. People do pick up on those little cues. Okay, well, I can see you feel a bit more confident in yourself and the way you're presenting yourself and the way you're communicating, but also in the way that people perceive you with the way you manage your work. So seeing you kind of less stress in your day to day, asking the right questions and, with your mind being in the right place, calming them too. And it kind of reciprocates and is part of this kind of almost kind of creative ecosystem, basically. And all of it comes down to, like I mentioned, just the way you perceive your identity within the context of your kind of creative application, your creative career. So yes, I hope that helps someone and maybe helps them to make sense of why they feel that way, where, they could have maybe recently joined a new role, started a new career as a designer, or maybe a designer that's been designing for 20 years and still can't quite figure out, okay, why do I feel that bad when I do what I do? And, it may be down to do with your identity and the way that you blur the lines. Thank you.